Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. This is my summary of the work we've done on Twitch this week. We're working on a set of tools for dulcimer players, and our focus this week was on a chord chart for hammered dulcimer players. So what we've done, we'd spent a little time on the chord chart for mountain dulcimers. We made sure we could only get reachable chords. Then we went to the hammer dulcimer, and we let you select the dulcimer type and the key, and then draw the dulcimer. We provided an index on the side by scale degree, and we display the notes that are in a particular chord. Let's see a demo and take a code walkthrough. All right, we'll start with the mountain dulcimer chart. And the big difference here is, I guess last week we had some of these in place, but this week we went through and said, can we get the ones that, well, we want to make sure they're reachable. So if I have one that's 1, 2, 6, my hand's not big enough. I can't reach it. So we made sure they were only in a certain range. And then we also did a little bit of stuff to try moving one of the notes up an octave and see if it made the chord any smaller or more reachable. So 005 is reachable because the first two, you don't actually hold any fingers down, so you can just go reach the 5. But 775 is a much tighter grouping, and it's sort of transportable in that you can slide it up and down and make other chords of the same shape. So we have 775 and 005 and 705, which is kind of the halfway in between. We made the middle string open and placed 7 and 5 on the outer strings. Okay, so pretty much throughout this, these are different because they throw away chords that can't be reached is the big news there. All right, we've spent most of the week on the hammer dulcimer, though. So a hammer dulcimer looks kind of like the inside of a piano. We have two things called bridges. So each bridge is a piece of wood that goes up the middle and has notes on one or both sides. So this particular tuning seems to be one of the standard ones. I'm not really a hammer dulcimer player. Your first half hour doesn't count. So I can't tell you if they're all like that or what, but a very common tuning anyway. So it's kind of a little pattern. You start on a note with these white markers, go up a whole step, up a whole step, up a half step, up a whole, a half. So there's a little bit of a pattern to it up until you get to the very top. These little white markers, they're just placeholders to just little guideposts so you know where you are on the dulcimer. Okay, so each of these is a bridge, the treble bridge and the bass bridge. With the white markers, I'm going to improve the look of them, but this was enough to get us started. And then the circle, triangle, square, etc., that defines the root, the third, or the fifth, or the seventh of a chord. So if you want to play a D chord, well, you got to have a root, a fifth, and a third. So there's a little triangle shape that will make one, or you can grab the D up here and play one of the other notes down here. But D, F sharp, and A are the notes in a D major chord. Okay, we'll go to, I want the minor 5. Oh no, this is major. Okay, major scale has the 5/7. The 7th note gets the diagonal. So you got to find a circle, a triangle, a square, and a diamond to make a 7th chord with 4 notes. All right, and then this index sends us down to whatever chord we're pointing to on the list. Notice I'm clicking a little to the right. You don't have to actually click on the letter. That took a little work to make that work, but it came out well. Okay, now the bass bridge, usually there's notes only on one side, so that's a little different, but they provide it. And then the 3, 4, 5, that's like the octave number of it. So you get a pretty good range, right? D3 up to D6. So yeah, 3, is that 3 or 4? I guess that's 3 full octaves and 1 extra note. Okay, and up here you're choosing, well, we just have one defined so far. It's not really a micro layout. I think it's 15, 14 or something. We'll have to see. That's on our list for next week, is to clean up that and introduce more than just one board. This was just enough to get us going. And then you choose the key. So if I want, let's say D minor, let's make it, well, that's different enough. Notice now the chords, they don't have the same pattern here, and I've got the minor fifth or the corresponding major fifth. And then this looks like we gotta squeeze that a little bit space wise. Okay, so little tweaks. All right, but the chords come out in a different order in a minor key, and it's helpful to have the minor version of the seventh chord, A minor, so the five chord. The minor seventh is built on the notes from the key, but a lot of times you'll use the major seventh because it makes the tonality sound stronger. Five chord going to a one chord really defines a tonality better if it's major five and major or minor one. Okay, that's pretty much this feature for the week. I'll go through the pieces that make each of these work and then the view for that. All right, let's start with layout, which is the definition of the bridge, of the whole dulcimer. So you can see a layout has bridges. There's two in this case, treble and bass. I don't know if you could, it's uncommon to have more, but there are ones with 3 or even 4 bridges or more, sometimes a little partial bridges and stuff like that. But your basic one is more like this, two bridges. Each bridge has a name and it has a bunch of pairs, and the pairs define what notes are on there. So that leftmost line had D6, G5 at the top, then C6, F5, and so on down on through. The number here corresponds, well, it actually corresponds to like the MIDI numbers for the notes. So let's find a C. C is 0, 12, 24, and so on. So 8 times 12 is 96. So we know that's a C note. If it's one less, it's a B, and so on. Okay, so this is basically a definition. The Boolean out here tells us, do you put the little white box at the, between these two notes? Okay, so I call it data bag. I don't know where I picked up that term, but maybe Martin Fowler. But it knows the name, it knows the bridges. It's got no behavior on that per se. We could have some, but we don't. Okay. What's a bridge? Well, he knows the name and he knows the pairs. What's a pair? Well, it's a left note, a right note, and a Boolean, and both of those are optional. Usually there's one or the other. You occasionally have a situation where there is none of either kind. We'll show that as a break or a blank space in there. Okay, and then onto the more musical aspects of this, the scale quality. Basically, we're going to support major and minor scales. You could support any of the modes as well, Mixolydian and Lydian and, I don't know, Dorian, whatever they are. But we just have the two. For most people playing most typical old-time songs, this is what you want. If people tell me they really need the modes too, I'll add it. It's not a problem. But the big thing is this defines what are the chords in a given scale. So if you're in a C major scale, the one chord built on C, the first note, is C major. The 2 chord built on D turns out to be a minor. The 3 turns out to be minor, and so on. This little circle says diminish. So the 7th chord is diminished in the major scale. Now for the minor scale, you're starting on a minor note. You're basically starting 3 notes lower. So A is minor, then B is diminished, and C is the 3rd chord. The root, it would be the root of the major, but it's the 3rd chord in the minor. And then I provide both the minor 7th and the major 7th and the the major 7 chord here. So key of A, it would be G, and then also the sharp 7 diminished, which is basically G is GBD. This is G sharp BD. And again, just like for the 5/7 chord, that G sharp really pushes you towards an A. So it pushes you back to the home key. So makes that nice. And we're just saying how many steps or half steps, corresponding to basically the white keys on a piano in a given scale. All right, now let's consider the chord quality. So quality is this notion of being major or minor or whatever. We've added chords. We have the dominant 7 no 5 and minor 7 no 5. That's for the mountain dulcimer. It only has 3 strings, so it can't play a 4-note chord, but the hammer dulcimer can. Okay. So the big thing in here is the patterns, and it's saying if you're forming a major chord, you start on a root note, 0 offset, you go up 4 half steps, that gives you the 3rd, go up 7 from the start, that gives you the 5th. Okay, so it's really just filling in all those for all types of chords. So a minor chord, the 3rd goes up 3, but otherwise it's the same. So C major is C E G, C minor is C E flat G. Okay. And we make sure, so the factor is the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, etc. That's a factor of a chord. And if you ask for the factors, we give you the pattern you've chosen, and we get the keys. So the root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, this dominant 7 has 4 factors in it. All right. And then a scale chord is saying, if I want a particular chord in a given scale, how do I get it? Well, you go to the quality, which is the chord quality, like we just saw, major, minor, 7th, whatever, and you get those factors, and then you're mapping them. You're taking the pattern of the quality, that 047 pattern, and you're putting it offset from the bass based on the key. So it basically adds up these 3 combinations of things: the what key are you in, what kind of chord do you want, and what chord in the key are you getting, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and so on. So it gives you those 3 things add together to give you the notes at the given ones, and then we provide back a map that says, given a note, which factor is it? So if I have a C major chord, C, E, G, and I come in and I say, I've got an E, what factor is it? Oh, that's the 3rd. And we use that to draw the shapes. We have chord chart HD, and basically it's pulling together the information from the view that says, what's the layout? So what shape does the notes of this dulcimer have? The big bridge and picture and all that. What's the key, and what's the quality of the scale, major or minor? And so it knows how to get those scale degree names. It knows how to write the name of a chord. So it takes into account, if you're the 1 chord in A minor, it's an A, it says lowercase 1 for 1 chord in A minor, dash A minor, the quality. And then we also know the shapes for a given key. Okay, so knowing those shapes tells us which shape to put in: circle, triangle, square, or diamond. Finally, get onto the view. All right, these are app storage, so that means they get saved between runs. Just kind of a convenience that if you had set up I want this dulcimer and this key and so on, then it just stays around. But it knows the layout, at least the index of it, the key, major, D, E, F sharp, whatever, the quality, major, minor, and so on. Okay, and it keeps track of that chart. So we start out with just an empty layout, but immediately on starting, initial true says, when you set this the first time, reset that chart. So the first version is just to satisfy the compiler, basically, but we'll get down there. So the pieces, well, it's got a background color, that's fine. And then a scroll view that says, what's the layout? So what kind of dulcimer is it? What key? What quality of key? Major, minor. And then what's the symbol key? Let's take a quick peek. That's just drawing that thing that said the circle is the root, the triangle is the 3rd, the square is the 5th, and the 7th, the diamond is the 7th. All right, and then once you've got that stuff at the top, then we want to go for each chord. we're going to go through and draw the chart again. Okay, put out the information for one board. So this is the one that runs the 1 major, the 2 is minor, the 3 is minor, the 4 is major, and so on. So we're just finding out for each chord in that scale, in the natural notes of the scale, basically, what do you get. And then we did a little tweaking to say scroll behavior is view aligned. So when you go in the index and you ask to go to a different part of it, we try and get the whole part in view. All right, and then the last bit down here is monitoring changes. So if you change the layout index, you've selected a new dulcimer, we update the chord chart. Basically, these are all the same. They just update different aspects of it. Okay, so now the chord chart, for each scale, it does 1 HD board. So let's go there. Okay, and it knows the chord chart and it knows the scale chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, etc. And it's just going to draw the name of the chord and a layout view that basically charts out the it draws the bridge, the notes, the shapes. Okay, and again, scroll target layout is what lets it target the whole view with an ID, so it knows which one to go to. A board consists of a layout and it knows the factor shapes. Okay, so for each bridge, we're going to do a bridge layout and then put the name at the bottom, so it said bass or treble or whatever. Okay, and a little bit of space. All right, and bridge layout. It's just kind of piece by piece working our way down. So now we're drawing one vertical bar with the notes and everything beside it. So we need to be able to draw the shape. It's either going to be a dash or a circle, square, etc. And we're using those as character shapes, so they're easy to draw. It's not as graphical as our mountain dulcimer board was. Okay, so for a given bridge, well, we're going to make 3 vertical pieces. So we have an H stack with a V stack, and then another V stack. So the first piece is the names on the left of that bridge. Okay. The second piece is the bridge itself. Okay, so it's one vertical bar. It's got the names on the left and right, and it draws the shape, if there is any, which will be well, I guess it's an M dash, and then an M dash, and then it could be a marker, or it might just be a plain cell. So the markers go in the middle, and then dash on the right, and then the shape for the thing on the pair on the right. And the shape keeps track of if things are null, it notices and returns an M dash. Okay, and then the rightmost thing is all the right sides of the pairs. So we're getting the left side is right adjusted, trailing adjusted, and the right side is leading adjusted, so they line up nicely. All right, well, that takes care of the code for this week. Coming up, we're going to introduce more layouts, try and get the most common dulcimer sizes. We've got some little tweaks to do here and there on the UI, color and spacing and so on, and we need to check landscape mode. We've checked it on most things, but not on this chord chart yet. So I think that'll cover us for a day or two. Then we're going to move on to some mostly refactoring and getting things ready for a real beta test. I've got a couple people playing with it now, but I want to get a bigger number. All right, you can join us on Twitch Monday through Thursday, 2 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time or 7 to 9:30 p.m. UTC. I may be changing that schedule soon. I haven't quite decided, but I'll certainly be there Monday on time. To join us live, go to xp123.com/Twitch. It'll bounce you over to the right Twitch channel. And if you go to xp123.com/YouTube, you'll get the old sessions, time delayed a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks at this point, and lightly edited. Thanks for watching. Hope you can join us sometime. Bye-bye.